All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be speaking with an individual who is set to be in the co-main event slot for the June 14th UFC Fight Night, and a very consequential contest within the UFC flyweight ranks as Miranda Maverick takes on Rose Namajunas, and always great getting to talk to Miranda, and great to have her on Bowks Talking Bouts today. How are you doing, Miranda?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me on. Glad we could finally connect.
Yeah, and some, changes since the last time we've spoken. I mean, you're doing mom life now, you're on constant mom duty, so big congratulations in that regard too. That seems huge.
Yeah, thank you. Bigger than the fighting for sure. It's been obviously the most important cornerstone of life right now, and it's been hard through fight camp, but we're getting into a hang of it and working it out.
And I saw you with some posts talking about how much of a change in perspective you have now, just in terms of like the realignment, in terms of like responsibility, priorities, etc. Can you kind of expound upon that a bit in the context of maybe how it's reframed some things, even not even just specific to your fighting career, but just life in
Yeah.
general?
Well, one, fighting's always kind of my priority in life, or it has been the last 10 years, basically. It's been the dream that I've gone after. I've still done school. I've still had my work. I focused on family in terms of my husband and stuff, but the rest of my family's kind of been put on the back burner. They're back in Missouri. I'm super close with my family and stuff, but I obviously am not living there right now. I still plan to one day, and having Renegade has definitely made it more of the forefront. I would say now family is the main priority. I still, as far as time and obligation, have to put it towards fighting and stuff, but other things kind of fall to the wayside. It puts everything into perspective of you win, you lose a fight, it's not that big of a deal either way. Like, yeah, there's the money aspect of it, but other than that, if somebody loves you or is supporting you, my little girl's not going to care that I won or lost the fight. She's just going to care that I'm holding her afterwards. And ultimately, that's what it's all about. And for me, motivation going into this fight is now bigger and better too. I do have something more to fight for. Literally, I have more money I want to get to be able to support her future and invest in her future. I want to be able to make it higher in the rankings to where I can continuously do that and kind of make that stamp that I've always wanted to make. And now's kind of my time to shine with that. I'm 27 years old. I finally got into that prime level. I'm not just like young up and comer anymore. It's time that I need to put my foot down and make something or not make it at all.
And it's been so cool watching the, story of your career unfurl as someone who's gotten the opportunity to speak to you a few times now. But I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about, women who are mothers and killing it in the UFC in terms of like not mentioning the UFC 316 co-feature. Like, what are your thoughts on the Julianna Pena versus Kayla Harrison title fight? 'Cause that seems like a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one. I honestly think Kayla's going to take it home pretty easily. But I'm excited to watch it and see it, just like I was excited about last night's event, but that didn't work out so well. So keep an eye on all the women's divisions closer than I do the men's. Speaking of priorities, I don't watch the fights hardly at all anymore. I just kind of tune back in for my own division usually so that I can keep an eye on everything, see where everything's at. But was definitely looking forward to the one last night, and I'll be watching the Harrison versus Pena one as well.
Yeah, and that was obviously going to be a subject that I was going to bring up at a certain point at the very least. But I mean, you kind of touched upon it, and two individuals that you have, familiarity with, too, just the anecdotal experience of fighting both, just the overall situation of, Maycee Barber not being able to make that walk because of seizure reports and things of that nature. Like, I guess just what are your thoughts on the totality of that situation? Because it seems like a big one for the division, obviously. Health comes first, all those different things for sure. But just what are your thoughts on the overall situation there with Barber and Blanchfield?
For sure. One, it's definitely complicated. I'm not going to say it's untrue that she had seizures or anything. I know she's had some medical issues in the past. But it happening consequentially right when it did, and the fact that the UFC wouldn't have stopped it if she was having seizures during the whole weight cut and stuff seems kind of unlikely to me. But things happen, and I do hope she gets better and finds the help she needs if that's the case. It doesn't help that she's put doubt into everyone's minds from how she's dropped out of fights in the past for non-medical reasons. And obviously there's more inside stuff that the fighters know than fans do. So I'll keep my mouth shut, but I'll just say that I question a lot of what happened last night and the validity of it all. And I hope that she does fight again and is able to get her life in order. I think her having breast surgery in between definitely didn't help with the weight cut or anything. That seems like a very odd decision to make as a fighter at the league that she's in.
And I guess like some of those issues have affected your anecdotal journey too, just like when Maycee had to pull out of that UFC Denver fight against your opponent you're now about to face, Rose
Yeah.
Namajunas, and that kind of, dislodged some things with your Tracy Cortez fight. So yeah.
Yeah, it's been frustrating, you know. Macy seems to be kind of a thorn in my side since we fought the first time around, from that robbery of a decision to the Rose fight where Tracy got pulled up. Then I got a person who wasn't even ranked, which still a fine fight, you know, but not what I wanted to be able to show my stuff. And now finally I'm getting to face Rose, somebody that is in the top of the division, which is nice. So it's a good jump in competition and I'm ready to go. But yeah, again, I hope Macy recovers well. I hope Erin gets the shot that she deserved. Now she's, as Valentina said, kind of out of the title contention because she didn't get to kind of prove herself at that top ranks. And I do feel bad for her. I'm glad they still gave her the fight and win bonus, though, which they usually tend to do if the fighter drops out the day of. I've actually had three dropouts the day of the fight, so I get how it feels, but never on the walkout.
Yeah, I can't imagine the rapid, up and down, the peaks and valleys emotionally and cognitively one would have in that moment. But you mentioned your upcoming opponent, Rose Namajunas, and just different articles that I've seen on you and even following your journey over the years. It's like, okay, this seems like the year to really, make that move up. Like you've got a nice win streak going on. And I mean, it seems representative of that kind of upward mobility you really want, just being, number 11, fighting the number 7 ranked contender here, a former champion, albeit in a different weight category, but still a lot of cachet coming from a win over a former UFC champion. So it seems like all the ingredients are really here for the kind of fight you've been wanting for a while now.
Exactly. I'm just ready to kind of take that step up. You know, Rose has been a training partner for quite some time now, and now we get to be rivals instead in a different sense. So excited to fight her, and then right afterwards be back to training together and being friends. Rose is an inspiration. I've been watching her since I started in MMA. You know, this isn't a bad blood fight in the slightest. I'm just ready to go in there and put it all on the line, and I know she is too.
And that's a cool component of this fight too, because I was, I guess, in part going to ask about how you guys each curated your preparations, because I did know you guys had that prior training history and everything like that. So just, it's a really cool thing. You're not letting it turn into like a personal thing. And I think like a lot of athletes, yeah, I mean, I think that mentality should be there a little bit more. Like obviously in certain instances, some people maybe just don't, I guess, have the want for it per se. But at the end of the day, it's a sport and you're ultimately trying to advance your own career and etc. So great that you both can kind of put that aside and not, I guess, look at it in a certain way and then can kind of like, I guess, continue that positive relationship and stuff like that for sure.
Yeah, it was kind of a mutual agreement when we accepted the fight, and it's one of those things where we'll be training together, I'm sure, right afterwards. You know, we know each other very well in terms of defense, offense, counters to each other. So it's going to be a very interesting fight, a very fun fight, and we've both been training really hard for it. You know, I see who she's bringing in for camp. I know she sees who I've been training with for camp, and we'll see who has the best game plan at the end of the day.
And I think like the obvious question that like a lot of people would probably have is like how much of that anecdotal familiarity that you both have in the training room, like how much of that is going to inform the fight? Because obviously there's a different level of, I guess, fervor or I guess approach associated with live competition versus what one would do in the training room. So how much, I guess, crossover from the anecdotal experience being training partners will inform this fight, if at all, you think?
I think all of it, you know, I think that it depends on the level you're at, but usually you train how you fight, and that's just how it is. Some people kind of have that mental barrier to where they train better than they fight. I think for both of us, we pretty much fight how we train, if not a little bit worse on the fighting front than the training front.
Yeah, it's just such an exciting fight and such an exciting card overall. And the only fight over top of this is that Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley fight positioned as the headliner and everything like that. Like, what are your thoughts on that particular fight? That would seem like it's very important in terms of, determining the 170-pound hierarchy. I know you're saying you don't necessarily follow like the men's scene as much, and it's kind of like an economy of focus on like divisionally relevant fighters that you would potentially compete against. But any thoughts on that fight all the same?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm supposed to support Usman because he's kind of training out here in the Denver area, but I honestly think Buckley's going to take home the win.
Is it just like a rate of activity for each fighter kind of consideration, or is it just Buckley's time, etc.?
I think it's kind of Buckley's time. I think Usman's gotten a little older. I think he has shown that he's gotten slower and a little worse over time. He might have one more climb left in him. I'm not sure, but I see him as kind of going downhill. I see Buckley as kind of rising to the top. And I think some people just have their limit and start going downhill a little bit. I think Kamaru's still one of the best in the world, but I think Buckley's going to get it done.
Yeah, just such an exciting card. I mean, that fight and the fight that you have with Rose coming up definitely makes that a must-watch fight night event for sure. But it seemed like some big motion happened in your division at UFC 315 with Shevchenko defending against Firo and Jasmine Jasudavicius with a statement win over Jessica Andrade, and then of course Natalia Silva beating the former champion Alexa Grasso. I guess just what are your thoughts on the divisional movement that happened in Montreal on that card?
I was impressed with Valentina. I will say I expected Manon to actually maybe get it done that night. I thought there might be a changing of the guard there, but it wasn't. I actually did expect Natalia Silva to win. She's amazing. I think that she's a future champion, potentially, or at least somebody that's going to be thrown into that championship fight very soon. And Jasmine's been climbing her way. She fought me, and I was like, wow, she's a lot better than people give her credit for. I got hurt in the second round. I won the first round, and I'm like, man, I still wish I could replay that fight and do it without my eye hurt. But it's like, man, she's done a great job ever since. I think the Jessica Andrade fight was a good fight for her. I don't think she's in title contention yet by any means, but I do think she's in the top of the division, and I think that she's going to just keep climbing up to the top. She's had quite the streak. Age is going against Jasmine, although she looks awesome, been doing awesome, but at some point people start getting older, start slowing down a little bit. But so far she's been on a killer streak. She hasn't been in the UFC for a super long time, and she's really been showing up and showing out. But yeah, Natalia, Jasmine, they're both up there kind of in the same names of where I want to be fighting in the next fight.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like a win would definitely vault you into that tier. And I mean, especially so just considering, what happened with the Blanchfield Barber fight, as I mentioned. Like, I feel like the 315 event that I mentioned and some of the big happenings, and then, what transpired, or I guess maybe didn't transpire, might be the way to phrase it. I feel like it creates a certain almost opening within the division in a sense, like it just in terms of having a contender underneath who would seem to be the next contender, if that makes
Who
sense. And I
knows?
guess in
I
kind
mean,
of
politics are such a big thing in the UFC. You never know what's going to happen, really. I just know that there's about five names up there right now that are going to be in title contention. Like there's Valentina, there's Manon, there's Erin. Maycee, probably not anymore right now, at least. She needs to go get her medical issues figured out, her life figured out. And let's see what else. Alexa might still be up there, but probably not. She'll be still in the top 10, of course. And then we have Natalia, we have Jasmine coming up. And so these are all big names that are going to be up there really fighting for the title soon. And Jessica is one of those people that I think it was kind of an easy win for Jasmine, honestly. I had been asking for the Andrade fight. I think she's kind of going downhill too, but she's always been awesome. She's another inspiration that's been in the sport a long time, done a lot of cool things. But I do think her skill set has been slowly going downhill over the last few fights.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a transitional time in the division for sure and everything like that. I guess to the point of who could be the next challenger, though, like, do you think they go the, I guess, meritocracy route, number one contender in the division, Silva for Shevchenko for the flyweight title, or do you think they finally pull the trigger? I mean, not to be punny, I guess kind of punny, but with the Bullet versus Zhang Wei Li, like that cross division super fight, like what do you, I guess, foresee as the next championship outing there?
I think it's going to end up being Wei Li just because of the fan favorite kind of thing. But you just name both of them. It's either going to be Silva or it's going to be Wei Li. I'm not sure which. I doubt that Zhang will win that fight, and I think she'll go right back down to 115. But we'll see. It might be something like Rose where she stays in the flyweight division and tries out her luck.
And you mentioned that Jasmine fight in the context of like, I wish I had another go at that without having, the injury hindrances that you did in that fight. Like, is that a fight that you have a particular, I guess, want for in terms of getting a rematch on that? Or I guess, what are your thoughts on Jasmine Jasudavicius potential rematch?
I mean, at some point, but honestly, I'd rather get the fight back against Erin or against Maycee. I think Maycee's kind of out of that lineup at this point, but I'd love to be fighting Erin again. Jasmine, I'd love to fight again too. Honestly, at this point, my focus is climbing the ladder. I don't care who gets put in front of me, but I'm focused on Rose right now. I'm gonna beat Rose, and we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, for sure. The focus has to squarely be on Namajunas, but you did mention the, Blanchfield fight that you guys previously had, and I noticed you guys had fought on that Poirier versus Oliveira card. I guess this is kind of in a similar vein to the Usman Buckley situation in a certain regard, and as far as what I mentioned about you're more so like exclusively following like the women in your division and just the women's MMA fighters for studying purposes, but all the same, just you guys having fought on that card with Poirier and Oliveira, like what do you think about their respective fights coming up with Oliveira fighting Ilia Topuria and then Poirier fighting Max Holloway in that trilogy fight?
Yeah, I honestly don't keep up enough to even have an opinion on it. They're both good fighters, and I enjoy watching the fights. That's about all all I've got there. I think Oliveira is a very good fighter, and I've seen him really not only improve but just have like a takeoff in his career since I've seen him fight at that first fight I had with Erin. Yeah, that's it. I don't really have an opinion on who will win the fights, though. I haven't seen all of them fight enough to have a judgment there.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're actively fighting, you've got, so many businesses on the go, you're a mom. I mean, you probably don't have a great deal of free
I
time, I'd guess.
I feel like in general, fans always think that fighters keep up with fighters, and it just doesn't happen that way. Like fans watch the fights. We have so much of our life engulfed in fighting. We don't want to sit at home and watch fights in our only free time, you know? And so I try to enjoy my weekends, especially my weeknights with my family, and just do what I can. I'm definitely not keeping up with all the divisions of the fights. I probably couldn't even name, more than like 30 guys in the UFC.
I guess what does that downtime look like when you get the chance to kind of indulge in a bit of that?
I don't really have downtime, I wouldn't say. I just have time where I focus on my honey and pickle business, prowlerpickles.com, by the way, or I'm spending time with Renegade now. I'm holding her, I'm feeding her, I'm doing whatever I need to do. So that's the focus. If I ever get free time, it's trying to get a little bit outside time, enjoy the sunlight.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's so important. I mean, it just is such a cool situation there, just seeing what you've been doing with that and everything. Like, I feel like that's something that you've talked about on and off over the years too, just like the want to be a mother. And like, I mean, the kind of camaraderie you have with your family that we've talked about in past interviews. Like, it just seems like a big chapter in your life right now, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been hoping to become a mom for a while, and we kind of pulled the trigger on wanting to adopt, and that took a long time too, and it was a hard road. But when Renegade kind of came into our lives, it was one of those things where God absolutely brought her to us. It was a miracle the way everything worked, and there's nothing like being a mom, that's for sure. It's devastating, and the fact that like anytime she gets hurt, anytime she cries, like it's like, wow, this little human, as they say, like is walking outside of my body with my heart in it. And it's like there's that, but also like the love that's so great. It's hard to explain to anybody who doesn't have kids for sure. I already knew I'd have that feeling just from how close I am with my parents, but to have my own daughter is a whole nother world.
I mean, that's such an incredible thought. I feel like I almost don't want to ask you any fight related questions after that because that's just what's most important in this life. And I also do want to be mindful of your time and very busy schedule, Miranda.
For
So, is there any
sure.
final parting thought you might want to add as we're kind of wrapping up here? Again, super appreciate the insights
Yeah.
as always.
I'm just gonna say thank you to all my sponsors. Thank you to my teams. I train out of Easton Training Center, Denver, and also Pound for Pound Muay Thai. If you guys want to support me at all, I do have specific UFC Atlanta shirts on my website, along with tons of other merchandise, whether it be shirts, beanies, sweatpants, MMA gloves, memorabilia at fearthemaverick.com, fearthemaverick.com. And then I also have my own pickle and honey business. I literally make all the pickles from scratch myself. We've got Bloody Mary mixes, apple butters, flavored honeys, regular honeys, jalapenos, asparagus, etc., etc. So go check that out at prowlerpickles.com. Not sure when you're airing this, but my code will be live spring 25, no spaces in it, spring 25. You can use that code at checkout until end of this week, until about June 7th, I believe it is.
I was gonna say the jalapeno one is definitely getting my attention. That would be my persuasion, but a lot of great flavors there, it seems like, for all palates.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the jalapenos, I obviously have spicy pickles, but then I also do pickled jalapenos and cowboy candy jalapenos. So everything separate together, whatever anybody wants. I try to bring a little sweet, a little sour, a little everything.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to be bringing a little bit of everything to the cage on June 14th as well. It's going to be a great fight with Rose Namajunas. And again, to reiterate, really appreciate always getting to talk to you, Miranda. It's been a cool journey to follow along with. And yeah, looking forward to checking out the fight when it goes down. But until then, you have a good rest of your day. And yeah, all the best.
All right, thank you, and thanks everybody for watching.